Hi everyone, it's me Agila Rajan, and let me tell you one thing. This video is exclusively for those who are aspiring to write the IELTS examination. And in this particular video, I'm gonna tell you all about the IELTS speaking test. What are the things you should keep in mind when you are going to attend an IELTS speaking test? Is there any dress code? The time duration of the IELTS speaking test, etc. So I'm going to share you all these points one by one. Without any further ado, let's get into the video. So first of all, I want to tell you the things that you should keep in mind when you enter the IELTS examination room. As it is said that the first impression is the best impression, it is always important to make your first impression good on the IELTS examiner, as it really counts. Many students don't know or sometimes get nervous while entering the exam room and forget about wishing the examiner, or sometimes make any mistakes. Before the examination starts, the examiner greets you by introducing him or herself and generally try to make you more comfortable to set the tone of the speaking examination. So the way of greeting the examiner is very important, and make sure that you smile when you greet him or her. And the greeting should be according to the time of the day. So you should say good morning, good afternoon or good evening as appropriate. And you should wait until the examiner doesn't offer the seat to sit down. And in some cases, the students become very nervous and ask the question, please, can I sit? But always remember, when you're requesting the examiner, you should use may instead of can. So the correct usage is, please, may I sit? And when you are offered the seat, do not forget to tell them thank you. And here the examination begins. And now you are sitting in front of the examiner. So after the greeting, it's time to start speaking. And remember, you are here for the interview and not to interview. So you are not supposed to ask them questions. Rather, you are expected to give the answers to the questions the interviewer may ask. And most of the IELTS speaking tests start with a personal introduction section. So introducing yourself is literally an art. So you should prepare yourself for it so that you can perform really well at that time. And the next thing is that you don't need to use Shakespearean vocabulary. You should use very simple words as possible. It is a wrong notion that when you use high sounding vocabulary, you will get good score. On the contrary, it will create a negative impact on your score. So it is always good to be as formal as can be. You don't need to speak anything that might look awkward. So be yourself and use good sentence structures with simple vocabulary, and these sentences should be error-free. And one thing that is commonly seen among students is that they memorize the things what they have to say in front of the examiner. But you shall not do like this. It is really good to practice well, but do not give them paraded answers, because the examiners are trained to identify such answers from the candidates. And these memorized replies will really affect your score. And when you are speaking, your tone should be really natural. It should sound like you. And you don't need to mimic any foreign accent. You should speak in your own way. And make sure that your mother tongue doesn't influence your English language. And many of the candidates, they do not score higher in IELTS speaking tests because their language is not free from their mother tongue influence. Because of the same reason, their pronunciation, accent and tone get disturbed. So if you too have such a problem, it is very important to focus on eliminating these kind of problems. Next, coming to the different sections in IELTS speaking test. The IELTS speaking test is 11 to 14 minutes long and is having 3 parts. And coming to the part 1, it is the warm-up section. In the part 1 of the IELTS speaking test, the examiner will introduce him or herself and ask you to confirm your identity. He or she then asks you some questions regarding some familiar topics like home, your family, your hobbies, your interest, your educational institutions, about your workplace, etc. So the next section in the IELTS speaking test is part 2, that is the cue card section or long turn. In this section, you will be given a cue card that contains a question and you will be given a minute to prepare for the question, and also you will be given a paper and a pencil to prepare for your question. Remember that you have only 1 minute for the preparation, and after your preparation you have to speak for 2 minutes regarding the cue card question. And the cue card questions be like, talk about your unforgettable memory or an unexpected gift you have received, a memorable vacation, about a family business, or about your favorite singer, a favorite movie. So it is very important to practice your cue card and make sure that you are capable to speak for 2 minutes without any interruption. And when you start speaking your cue card, you don't need to bother about anything. You have to speak fluently with good sentence structures, error-free sentences, good vocabulary, etc. And the examiner has a stopwatch to set the time. And remember, the examiner will interrupt you when the 2 minutes are up. And sometimes the examiner will ask you to stop your cue card before the 2 minutes are up. At that time, if you haven't finished what you are trying to say, don't worry, you have successfully spoken at length for your long turn. And coming to the part 3, that is the discussion session. And the IELTS speaking part 3, that is the discussion part, will last for more than 6 minutes. And this part allows the examiner to ask you questions regarding the part 2, that is regarding your cue card question. And here the conversation is more general and abstract. So you will be expected to give your answers in greater depth than part 1. And it is commonly seen that many students fear the part 3 and they cannot perform well in their discussion part. And that really affects their band score, because in this section we actually do not know what to expect. And the next point I want to share with you is, how is the IELTS speaking test marked? Remember, the speaking test in IELTS examination is just like a normal conversation. Your speaking skills are marked against a number of criteria like fluency, cohesion and coherence, lexical resource, pronunciation, grammatical range and accuracy, and good vocabulary. So these are the important criteria that you should focus really well to master in your IELTS speaking test. And the next point is that, is there any dress code for the IELTS speaking test? Actually speaking, there is no particular dress code for your IELTS speaking test. You can wear whatever you want. However, you should keep in mind that you are going to speak to another human. So you should look presentable. So coming to the next point is that, what are the things you should keep in mind to get a 7+ band in IELTS speaking test? First and foremost thing is that you should be very confident and maintain the eye contact with your examiner throughout your speaking test. And do not forget to allow a good smile on your face while you're speaking test. So the prominent reason for the students to score a 6 or lower band in IELTS speaking test is that they do not follow the methodology they should follow strictly. You should understand that vocabulary, grammar and coherence play an important role in your IELTS speaking evaluation. And sticking to the methodology will definitely help you to achieve a 7+ band in your IELTS speaking test. The IELTS speaking examination, your speaking skills are judged on how you can communicate and understand the language. So the examiner will look for whether you can understand what is asked from you in English, especially when you are going to an English speaking country. So the first thing is that you should understand the question and give the answers accordingly without going off the track. Going off the track really penalize you, even if your speaking skills are good, you are fluent enough, that really do not matters. For example, if the question is where do you live, and in reply if some would say I'm from Kerala, This answer is grammatically correct, but it doesn't respond to question, because you could be from Kerala, but you could be living in Bangalore. So you should say, I reside in Kerala. So the change of words that was used in question live was changed to reside. This is an example of using better vocabulary. The next thing is that you should use a range of vocabulary to get a good band in IELTS speaking test. And while giving your speaking test, you should ignore the fact that in non-native English speaking countries, people are using simple language to communicate. You should use better vocabulary in your IELTS speaking test to give your answers and to avoid the repetition of certain words. Next thing I want to share is what is coherence. I have already mentioned the word coherence somewhere in my video. Coherence actually means the way or how you really link your speech. Your speech should be connected via connectives. That is, your sentences should be correlated with each other using certain connectives. This will enable you to keep your examiner engaged. Also, you should be very fluent using good sentence structures and do not divert from your topic, and that is, do not switch from one topic to another. And the last thing that you should keep in mind to make your language really impressive is the grammar, because your score will be detected for grammatical errors. So you should avoid any of these mistakes. So these are actually the things I wanted to share with you about the IELTS speaking test. I think I have almost covered everything related to the IELTS speaking test. If you have any doubts regarding the IELTS speaking test, please put a comment in the comment box. I hope this video is really useful for those who are actually aspiring to go abroad or to attend the IELTS examination for that purpose. So here I would like to wind up this video. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Thank you.